What if a single word whispered in a foreign tongue, meant to cut down a hard-working woman serving plates of steaming food in a crowded restaurant, became the catalyst that toppled an empire worth billions? In the gleaming downtown diner where Amara Jackson worked double shifts to put herself through college, she served the powerful men in expensive suits with a smile that masked her exhaustion, never letting them see how her feet ached or how their dismissive glances stung. But when the visiting Arabic business magnate Khalil Rahman leaned toward his associates and called her something he thought she would never understand, he had no idea that the linguistics degree she was 4 credits away from completing included 3 years of his native tongue, or that his $2 billion acquisition was about to spectacularly unravel. The fluorescent lights of the Gilded Spoon Diner buzzed overhead as Amara Jackson slid another plate of apple pie across the counter, her smile never revealing how the muscles in her back screamed after 10 hours on her feet. Autumn rain pelted against the windows, transforming the downtown financial district into a blur of umbrellas and taxi lights, while inside, the warmth carried the comforting scent of coffee and cinnamon that masked the underlying odor of bleach and fryer oil. Amara watched the suits at table 7 laugh over their 3rd round of drinks, their empty appetizer plates pushed aside carelessly, their voices carrying across the room, as they discussed millions changing hands like it was pocket change, while her tip jar held barely enough for the bus fare home, and another bag of generic brand pain medication for her mother. 4 years of pushing through her linguistics degree program at City University, maintaining a 3.9 GPA, despite working 30-plus hours weekly, and still the weight of unpaid medical bills threatened to crush their tiny 2-bedroom walk-up, where her mother now spent most days confined to bed, the aggressive lupus flares stealing more of her strength each month. The notification on her phone glowed with another past-due alert from the electric company as Amara tucked a strand of tight curls back beneath her mandatory hairnet, her textbook for tomorrow's Arabic dialectology exam still untouched in her backpack, the final requirement before she could graduate next month if she managed to maintain her scholarship. She collected dishes from a recently vacated booth, invisible to the departing businessmen who continued their conversation without acknowledging her presence, when her ears caught the distinctive sounds of Levantine Arabic from the corner table where a man in an impeccably tailored suit held court with 4 associates. Her extensive language training allowed her to understand fragments about Innovatech solutions, local employment contracts, and a final meeting scheduled for tomorrow afternoon to sign acquisition papers worth billions. The man speaking checked his watch, a timepiece worth more than her annual tuition. As he mentioned returning with his legal team to finalize everything over lunch, his perfectly manicured hands gesturing authoritatively while the others nodded deferentially. Manager Rick appeared at her elbow, asking in a whisper if she could possibly cover Jaden's shift tomorrow since he had called in sick again, the desperation in his voice matching the perpetual understaffing that plagued the establishment. Amara thought of her exam scheduled for 10 a.m., the study notes still unreviewed, the professor who had already granted her 1 extension this semester due to her mother's hospitalization, and knew she should refuse. Yet the memory of the disconnection notice waiting at home, the prescription refills needed by Friday, and the Arabic-speaking businessman who would return with his entourage promising substantial tips from a multi-billion deal celebration made the decision grimly inevitable. She nodded agreement to Rick, calculating she could study during her pre-dawn bus commute and possibly make it to campus for the final 30 minutes of the 2-hour exam if she served the businessman efficiently enough, knowing she was gambling with her academic future, but seeing no alternative as the weight of responsibility to her ailing mother outweighed even her educational aspirations that had been hard-fought for every step of the way. Friends, before we go further, may I ask a small favor? Please subscribe to our channel. It truly helps us keep bringing you these stories, and reaching 1,000 subscribers soon is so important for us to continue. We also love hearing from you. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. It's always fascinating to see how our little storytelling circle is spreading across the world. And if you enjoyed the beginning, give this video a like, and let's share thoughts on the whole story together below. The lunch rush at the Gilded Spoon transformed entirely when Khalil Rahman swept through the door precisely at noon, a wake of expensive cologne and quiet deference following him as 5 men in bespoke suits and 1 woman carrying multiple leather portfolios trailed behind like perfectly choreographed backup dancers. Sunlight streamed through freshly rain-washed windows, creating an almost theatrical spotlight on Table 9, where Amara had spent 30 minutes arranging place settings with extra care, her eyes burning from sleeplessness after cramming Arabic verb conjugations until 4 a.m. before catching the first bus downtown. Every server understood, without being told, that Khalil owned the room. Manager Rick hovered nearby, personally escorting the party while Amara stood at attention with water pitcher in hand. Observing how Khalil casually interrupted his subordinates mid-sentence, while offering effusive compliments to the silver-haired American executives from Innovatech who arrived moments later. Her trained ear caught the subtle shifts in his voice, the micro-expressions flickering across his face when addressing those he considered beneath him versus his theatrical warmth reserved for equals, noting how he positioned the youngest associate at the farthest point of the table where his whispered input went repeatedly ignored. The leather portfolio passed around contained documents thick enough to change lives. Discussions of redundancies and restructuring mentioned casually between bites of overpriced club sandwiches, while Amara refilled water glasses mechanically, fighting to keep her eyes open after rushing across town from her abbreviated exam. Fatigue betrayed her when an unexpected movement from a neighboring table caused her to jolt, sloshing ice water onto the sleeve of Khalil's jacket, an audible gasp escaping from Rick, watching horrified from across the room. Khalil waved away her stammered apology with practiced magnanimity, assuring her in flawless English that accidents happen while his perfect smile never reached his eyes. But as she retreated with promises to bring towels, his voice dropped into rapid Arabic intended only for his countrymen at the table. "Look at this stupid black girl. Probably cannot even read the menu she carries. Worthless help they hire in this country. Someone should tell the management to keep the animals in the kitchen where they belong." Laughter rippled through his associates while Amara froze momentarily, her spine stiffening imperceptibly before her professional mask slipped back into place. Years of customer service training overriding the burning humiliation as she continued toward the kitchen with measured steps. During her next service approach, the smartphone hidden beneath her order pad recorded their unguarded conversation as they switched fully to Arabic, capturing Khalil, explaining how they would liquidate Innovatech immediately after acquisition, moving all intellectual property offshore, while terminating the American workforce within 6 months. Despite the promises of local investment currently being written into the contracts, boasting about regulatory loopholes that would leave Innovatech employees without severance or benefits, while maximizing shareholder value through a complex shell company arrangement he had successfully executed 4 times previously, with American companies too trusting to investigate thoroughly enough. The yellow glow of a single lamp illuminated the scattered papers across Amara's kitchen table, past due notices fanning out like fallen autumn leaves alongside orange prescription bottles bearing her mother's name, their contents diminishing as rapidly as their savings account. Rain streaked down the apartment windows, blurring the distant downtown skyline where office lights still burned in towers that seemed to exist in another universe entirely from her reality in the aging brick walk-up, with its temperamental heating and water stains mapping the bright ceiling. Her phone lay before her, the recorded conversation replaying for the 6th time as she massaged her temples, the weight of knowledge becoming its own burden while her mother slept fitfully in the adjacent room, unaware of the moral crossroads her daughter faced at 3 a.m. Professor Winters had listened intently earlier that day when Amara had sought her counsel after class. The former corporate attorney turned linguistics department chair, recognizing immediately the legal implications captured in those audio files, her office filled with books on business ethics alongside ancient language texts. "Your academic work is exceptional, Amara. But what you possess now goes beyond linguistics into territory with serious consequences," she had said. Fingers steepled thoughtfully before explaining the potential ramifications ranging from corporate espionage laws to international business regulations, her eyes reflecting both concern and unmistakable respect for her student. The professor had carefully avoided telling Amara what to do, instead providing context and resources while acknowledging the very real risks of standing against someone with Khalil Rahman's wealth and connections, a man whose net worth exceeded the annual GDP of certain small nations and whose retribution could extend far beyond a lost waitressing job. Light from her laptop screen cast blue shadows across Amara's face, as article after article revealed Khalil's business methodology across 3 continents, communities left hollowed out, after his acquisitions stripped companies to their bones, thousands of employees discarded without warning, in violation of spirit if not letter of employment laws. A text message from her cousin Darnell appeared, checking on Aunt Loretta's health, the same cousin who had spiraled into depression after Midwest Manufacturing closed suddenly 4 years prior. 800 workers abandoned when the new owners liquidated unexpectedly after promising community investment. With growing certainty, Amara discovered Khalil's holding company signature all over that transaction, connecting her family's suffering directly to the man who had called her an animal while she poured his water. Her fingers traced the acceptance letter to the UN translation program she had deferred twice already due to financial constraints, dreams temporarily shelved but never abandoned despite the endless obstacles life had placed in her path. Dawn began painting the sky beyond her window as Amara organized her evidence methodically, remembering Jessica Reynolds, the founder of Innovatech, whose business philosophy emphasized ethical innovation and whose company maintained a daycare center and educational benefits for employees according to their website, a woman who had built something meaningful that would be destroyed by Khalil's predatory acquisition. The choice crystallized with morning light, her path forward suddenly clear despite the risks. As Amara listened to her mother coughing in the next room, understanding with profound clarity that silence and self-preservation in this moment would make her complicit in the suffering of hundreds of families who would face the same struggles her own had endured, their livelihoods sacrificed on the altar of corporate greed by men who saw them as nothing more than disposable resources rather than human beings with dreams, responsibilities, and inherent dignity. Autumn sunlight filtered through stained glass panels in Cornerstone Coffee, casting prisms of color across the reclaimed wood table where Amara sat fidgeting with her cup, feeling profoundly out of place among professionals typing on sleek laptops while she waited in her faded university sweatshirt, having called in sick to the diner for the first time in 3 years. Jessica Reynolds arrived exactly at 10, her confident stride and minimalist grey suit projecting the success of a woman who had built Innovatech from her garage into a company worth billions, though her lack of entourage and the warm smile she offered to the barista revealed character beyond mere wealth. Initial wariness flickered across her face upon spotting Amara. Confusion evident as she approached the table where this unfamiliar young woman claimed to have urgent information about her company acquisition, her guard visibly raised after 20 years navigating the piranha waters of tech industry business. Amara spoke softly but with unexpected eloquence, her linguistics training evident in her precise explanation of how she came to possess the recordings, making no attempt to dramatize or embellish as she placed her phone on the table between them. Simply stating facts, while Jessica listened with increasing focus, her skepticism gradually yielding to genuine concern. The transformation in Jessica became profound as the recordings played through standard-issue earbuds, her expression shifting from disbelief to recognition to cold anger. While Amara translated the Arabic portions with academic accuracy, capturing both content and cultural nuances that revealed Khalil's true intentions toward the company she had nurtured for 2 decades. "Why would you bring this to me instead of using it for yourself or simply staying out of it altogether?" Jessica asked finally. Studying the younger woman with newfound respect and undisguised curiosity. The question hung between them as ambient coffee shop sounds filled the pause. Two women from worlds that rarely intersected, truly seeing each other across a divide of opportunity and circumstance. Amara described her mother, her deferred dreams, her cousin broken by corporate abandonment, speaking not with self-pity, but with quiet dignity about responsibility to community and the ripple effects of unchecked greed, explaining how she recognized the names of neighborhoods Innovatech had specifically invested in. Places similar to where she had grown up. Jessica revealed her own history then, surprising Amara with stories of growing up in subsidized housing, of cleaning office buildings at night while attending community college, of building Innovatech specifically to create technology jobs with advancement pathways for people without prestigious degrees or connections. The ethical employment practices and community reinvestment weren't corporate social responsibility window dressing but foundational to her business philosophy, making the sale to Khalil suddenly unthinkable despite the personal wealth it would generate for her. Their alliance formed organically across the table, transcending background differences through shared values and complementary skills, as Jessica recognized in Amara not just moral courage, but exceptional intelligence and linguistic gifts that could serve purposes far beyond this immediate crisis. Together they constructed a strategy leveraging corporate law, public relations leverage, and the element of surprise, with Jessica insisting the confrontation happen at the diner where Khalil had revealed his true character, symbolically perfect for his downfall. The conversation concluded with Jessica offering her business card with personal cell number written on the back, followed by an unexpected question about Amara's career aspirations and an invitation to interview for Innovatech's International Relations Department regardless of tomorrow's outcome. The casual mention of full benefits, including educational assistance for dependents, causing Amara's breath to catch, as possibilities previously unimaginable suddenly materialized before her, tangible as the coffee cup warming her hands. The Gilded Spoon Diner transformed into an arena of power the following afternoon. Sunlight streaming through freshly polished windows as Khalil and his entourage commanded their usual table, legal documents spread across the surface like battle plans, while Innovatech representatives arranged themselves strategically opposite, tension vibrating beneath polite business pleasantries. Amara moved with deliberate grace between tables, her standard uniform now feeling like armor as she poured coffee with steady hands, hyper-aware of Jessica Reynolds conspicuously absent from the gathering, her delay explained away by traffic while Khalil checked his watch impatiently, his irritation barely concealed beneath practiced charm. The weight of the wireless microphone pinned beneath her collar felt like truth itself as Amara navigated the choreography they had rehearsed, placing water glasses with precise movements while catching fragments of Arabic conversation, Khalil becoming increasingly confident as signing time approached without Jessica appearing to voice any final objections to the acquisition terms. When Amara accidentally brushed against his chair while serving, Khalil seized the opportunity for another performance of magnanimity in English, followed immediately by vicious Arabic commentary to his associates, his voice dripping with contempt as he described her as another worthless, uneducated American, suggesting someone should teach the animal her place through methods that made his companions laugh nervously, while avoiding eye contact with the woman they assumed understood nothing. The atmosphere crystallized into perfect stillness when Amara responded in flawless classical Arabic, her pronunciation impeccable as she addressed him with formal language structure taught in the finest universities, informing him with devastating politeness that she understood perfectly well her place in this world as someone who treated others with dignity regardless of station, unlike those who revealed their true character through cruelty when they believed no one important could understand them. Shock rendered the table motionless as Jessica Reynolds appeared precisely on cue, her timing impeccable as she approached not from the entrance but from the kitchen where she had been waiting. Manager Rick, following with uncharacteristic confidence while Amara produced her phone and activated the speakers, allowing Khalil's previous statements about liquidating Innovatec and terminating all employees to fill the suddenly silent diner. Corporate attorneys from both sides reached instinctively for paperwork, as Jessica calmly detailed the evidence of fraudulent intent now documented, including statements about regulatory evasion that constituted actionable securities violations, while Khalil transformed before their eyes from smooth businessman to rage incarnate, his careful facade crumbling completely as he shouted accusations of entrapment and conspiracy. His fury escalated when Jessica referenced similar patterns in 4 previous acquisitions that would now face regulatory scrutiny, culminating in his fatal error of publicly threatening both women in terms so explicit that his own legal team physically distanced themselves from him, one junior associate quietly closing her portfolio and sliding it away as though avoiding contamination. The power reversal completed with breathtaking finality when Jessica announced to the assembled witnesses that rather than selling Innovatec, she was establishing a new international ethics compliance division specifically focused on preventing predatory acquisition practices, introducing Amara Jackson as a consultant with specialized expertise in cross-cultural communication and corporate transparency, whose first project would include reviewing all business practices of Rahman International Holdings for potential class action litigation on behalf of previously damaged communities. Corporate lawyers, who moments before had been prepared to facilitate a billion-dollar acquisition, now pivoted seamlessly toward protection mode, one whispering urgently to Khalil about immediate damage control, while another made notes regarding potential liability exposure, their allegiance shifting visibly as restaurant patrons watched the spectacle unfold, several surreptitiously recording the public meltdown of a man whose wealth had previously insulated him from consequences of his actions, but whose arrogance had finally placed him opposite adversaries he had fatally underestimated. Sunshine poured through floor-to-ceiling windows of the renovated Gilded Spoon Community Bistro as Amara adjusted her graduation cap, the golden honors tassel catching light as former customers turned friends captured photos of her beside the plaque, commemorating her journey from waitress to linguistics, graduate to newly appointed Director of International Community Relations at Innovatec Global. 6 months of transformation stretched between that fateful confrontation and this celebration brunch, changes manifesting in everything from the wheelchair-accessible entrances to the profit-sharing program that had manager Rick beaming as he distributed gourmet coffee to tables now filled with neighborhood residents alongside business professionals, economic barriers dissolving in a space deliberately redesigned to foster connection rather than reinforce division. Jessica Reynolds raised her glass in a toast to both the bistro reopening and Amara's graduation, her investment in the restaurant representing merely one facet of her expanded community development initiative that now operated alongside her technology business, proving that ethical capitalism could flourish when values remained centered in business models. The Service Industry Scholarship Fund announcement drew enthusiastic applause, Amara explaining how working students would receive financial support alongside flexible scheduling guarantees, her understanding of balancing education with survival needs, informing every aspect of the program structure, while her mother watched from her seat of honor, her health steadily improving with access to specialists previously beyond financial reach. Across the Atlantic, Khalil Rahman faced mounting legal challenges as regulatory investigations uncovered decades of fraudulent business practices, his company's stock plummeting as former business associates distanced themselves publicly, his reputation unraveling thread by thread as former employees provided testimony about systemic abuses previously hidden behind non-disclosure agreements and intimidation tactics. When Amara rose to address the gathered community, her voice carried the quiet confidence of someone who had discovered her own power not through dominance but through principled action, speaking about dignity as a birthright belonging to every person regardless of occupation or circumstance. about systems designed to make people feel small in order to prevent them from recognizing their collective strength, about the false narratives that separate workers from their own agency through artificial hierarchies based on wealth rather than character or contribution. The afternoon concluded with Amara helping her mother into their new ground-floor apartment, located midway between the university where she would begin graduate studies and Innovatech headquarters, the space filled with sunlight and accessibility features that allowed genuine independence. Photographs of family members creating a bridge between honored past and newly possible future. Throughout the neighborhood surrounding them, subtle changes rippled outward as the Innovatech Community Investment Fund supported local businesses, as scholarship recipients pursued degrees while maintaining employment, as corporate accountability initiatives, championed by Jessica and Amara, forced industry competitors to improve practices or risk public exposure, proving that transformation could begin with a single moment of courage when someone refused to remain invisible despite powerful forces preferring their silence. That evening, as sunset painted gold across her living room wall, Amara received an email from a waitress in Singapore describing remarkably similar experiences with another powerful businessman, seeking guidance about documenting predatory corporate practices. The message representing just one of dozens arriving weekly from people finding their voices after generations of being unheard and underestimated, each message confirmation that when justice prevails in even one instance, its light creates possibility for countless others ready to transform indignity into action, silence into solidarity, and resigned acceptance into the powerful recognition that systems appearing invincible can indeed be changed when people previously discounted as insignificant discover their collective capacity to rewrite the rules governing who deserves respect and whose future matters.